The story happens in a world where humans can evolve their force from a type of cultivation. The protagonist of this story is Lin, who lives alone and wants to be a cultivator. When he turns 18, someone knocks his door and the climate starts getting sinister. And Lin activates his spiritual eyes to try find out who's at his door, and the invader starts admiring his ability. When he tried to ask for help, an old brightly man got inside the door, and without giving him any explanation, he gave him a system to have the powers of a god. Also, he gave him a recommendation letter to get into a renowned school of the spirituals world. After this, the old man leaves and the protagonist is excited with this whole spiritual world. Out of nowhere, a little creature only he can see shows up, and right after that, they see someone's energy trying to get on that world. The creature asks if he's going to help that person, and he says he will. Doing that, the portal opens and a girl falls above him. When she gives him a hand to help him, the creature changes and Lin clothes so he can attract the girl, who praises his clothes immediately. After introducing herself, she asks him to follow her, and together they cross the portal. Zhanshen, the girl, talks about the cultivation school they'll go to when, further ahead, they saw there was a test to measure the students' power. They had to touch a big stone that will qualify you and designate a classroom for you. The important people were already doing the test, and when the protagonist asks Zhanshen's level, she's called to do the test. At that moment, a lot of guys scream her name, and when she touched the stone, she was classified as a student of first class. The next called was Lin, nervous because he had never cultivated before. He takes the letter of recommendation and gives it to the evaluator. Because this letter was from a cultivator who turned himself immortal, everyone became Lin's fans. When the numerologist there uses his power on him, he perceives he's going to surprise everyone on that world. And hearing how everyone would scream his name even more, the main character takes courage and puts his hand on the stone, and then he's classified to the worst classification of the school. Anyway, he's still going to the first class because of his recommendation letter, and seeing this, everyone starts harrying him. The creature of the system says he detects a lot of hate directed to him. Another boy goes to do the test, and when he sees his low classification, he blames the protagonist, saying he broke the stone. On the meantime, a guy appears out of nowhere and asks the protagonist to the X1 place he doesn't even know. But he can't go because Zhanshen saves him, taking him to the school's rooms immediately. At night, checking out the system, and Lin finds out he needs to practice a little to level up. And the first task the system gives him is to do 10 push-ups. After doing it, his body is improved to the first stage. After doing 10 more, he leveled up to the second stage. And with 100 more, he leveled to the third stage. Now, to level up more, he'll need to do 10 billion push-ups. And without knowing what else he could do to improve, he goes to ask help to Zhanshen. But when he's out of her room, someone tries to attack him. But since he already achieved the third level of strength, he manages to defense from his enemy. Who attacked him is the fat from the test, who blamed him for breaking the stone. This guy takes a luck charm and activates a power. The Earth system tells the protagonist he won't be able to defense form that attack, and the most he could do is to use the celestial portal gallows to break the luck charm. A risky method. But he didn't even need to use it because Zhanshen appeared and saved him. But the fake image of the guy, made out with the luck charm, attacked her back. However, Lin went in front of her and used the heavenly portal to counterattack, expulsing the enemy. After everything was solved, the girl tells the protagonist he's on that academy because she wants to protect people. Looking at him, she says she perceives he'll become someone incredible on the future, and until that day arrives, she'll protect him, to what he agrees, smiling at her. At the next day, both of them go to the first day of class, and while they're walking, Lin can activate a power to listen others, and with this he finds out everyone's calling him bandit, thief. Once they were at the classroom, we see the teacher was an old man in the form of a tree, and suddenly a beautiful woman appears throughout the portal, and a cute guy. They were all beautiful people, and the protagonist notices Zhanshen is at the same level of that people, whether in beauty, family, or power. But different to those people, he liked her a lot. When she heard that, she feels ashamed, and after that the teacher starts the class and everyone closes their eyes, trying to understand what's happening. The protagonist opens his spiritual eye and realizes everyone is cultivating something. But since he never did that before, he didn't know how to do that class. The next one was the fencing S class, where the teacher was an old man in the form of a sword. After this one there was a teacher in form of fireball, then a teacher in form of a hammer, and when a teacher with the appearance of a human woman. And Lin gets excited. And different from the other teachers, this one gives everyone cell phones that use spiritual energy, and their mission will be to use the phones as much as possible. The next class was with the numerologist, who sent them to sleep and write down their dreams. After the teacher counted to 3 and Lin fall asleep, and when the girl woke him up, the class was already over. They were on a magic class now. The teacher called the prettiest boy of the class and Lin to train together. But, to protect the protagonist, Zhanshen gets in front of him and attacks the other student. But even if she was strong, the level of the other guy was too. He was impressed for his strength, but even so, he tells her he hasn't cultivated enough to be at his level, and after saying that, he pushes her against the floor using his power. When he was about to give her a stronger blow, and Lin gets on the way activating his spiritual portal again. When the teacher sees him and his power, the teacher is impressed by him, and the other guy, excited, keeps trapping the two protagonists. But somehow, Lin manages to break the chains, and, in the middle of the battle, he evolves to the famous 4 stage. After releasing all that power, the protagonist feels his body weak, and the guy he fought with went at him, accepting his defeat. After that, the teacher disappeared and sent them to study alone, and when she does, the humble cute guy praised the 2 newbies and offered his help. Because Lin needed some cultivation stones to reach the next stage, he asked him some. And the guy gave him a ring that's equal to 1,000 of those stones, and then he asked him if he liked military stuff. And the protagonist answered yes, almost crying. And the cute guy says goodbye like a military. On the other hand, another girl very cute and skillful called Chuan appears, hoping to be friends with the 2 protagonists. Back at his room, Lin uses the stones to level up again, and now the Earth system gives a new challenge to the protagonist, to participate of a royalty duel that'll happen on that school, and be one of the 50 best. If he fails, the system will transform Hai in a woman. Outside the room, he tries to find out if his friends will like him even if he becomes a woman. But it didn't go as expected, and everyone thought he was crazy for practicing cultivating so much. Again on his room, the protagonist decides to do everything to become the stronger at the school, and not become a woman. The protagonist asks for an extra mission, and the system says he'll have to defeat someone on his same stage or superior. Since his best friend, Zhanshen, is on the 1st level, he decides to ask her to pretend she loses against him. But when he tries it, he gets shy and fails doing it. Then he asked his other friend, the cute guy, to do it, but he said he should take cultivating seriously, and to stop thinking on evil practices. However, he returned after and tries again, saying he wouldn't like his friend to not grow, and he ended up accepting. Then, Lin went to tell the truth to Zhanshen and ask for the same to her. This one misunderstood everything and thought he was going to confess his love for her, and only thinking about it she was so shy. When he explained himself, she agreed to help him on his evolution. Another night, the protagonist is talking with his friend and asks him to teach him some cultivation blows, and he decides to teach him the formation of divine chains. At the next day, he tries to use it on the girl, and she ends up crying. When he sees her crying like that, he gets distracted and ends up missing the blow and touching her on a certain place, making her even sadder, so she left, calling him an idiot. After failing like that, he went to his friend and cried at him. Then, back on his room, he ends up eating some different stones he got suspiciously to get more power, and thanks to those, he got diarrhea. At the bathroom, the system informed he'll be like that for 13 days, and after that he'll get a new ability. Because of his symptom, he wasn't even able to say sorry to Zhanshen. Some days passed and everyone at school hated the protagonist even more. The cute guy, who was the class monitor, he goes to see what's going on with him, and after talking with him outside the door, he starts believing he's posed by a demon. So he sits on the door of the room and starts exercise a power to remove impurities, and when he does that, the protagonist starts taking everything out, making the cute guy think he's doing the right thing. So he kept doing it, making the protagonist do a lot more. On the meantime, his 2 other friends ended up on his room and saw the guy using his power. Thanks to this, the protagonist could make it out of his room. But even so, he still needed a few hours for his stomach ache to pass, but the day of the duel had arrived already. While everyone at school hated him, a person in the form of a big dog noticed he was feeling bad, so he tried to make him feel better. And after this, an old man sends everyone to the battlefield. There, the cute guy starts finishing students, and the girl also does it as well. And Lin, on the other hand, is feeling so bad he doesn't even can fight. He just wants to go to the bathroom. So while everyone's fighting, the protagonist is at the nature pooping hided. Sadly, a guy finds him and tries to start a fight with him, and even more people showed up to fight him. This last group of people sent the first guy away, and the protagonist asked them to confront him one by one. And they, trying to decide who'll fight against him first, start fighting with each other. And while they did that, he finally managed to get better. And with that he got a new skill, a blow so strong that a mountain could shake, and he finally feels ready to fight. He uses his new skill to defeat these people, and after sending them to fly, he level up to the 5th stage. Now, he has to defeat as many people as possible to be on the 50 top. Out of nowhere, the fat student appears wanting to help the protagonist. It seems as he doesn't hate the protagonist anymore. He took him to a cave where a lot of students were hidden, and they all asked him to defeat him peacefully because they didn't want to fight. With this, he defeats all of them and starts leveling up, and the ones that were already outside, seeing this, start calling him thief. After defeating some people, the system tells that a cultivator really strong is close, and when appears he thought it was a man, but it was actually a girl with a murder necklace that got in the school using the recommendation letter of the number 1 god of killing. She's called Liu. She gives Lin 2 options, to play a game with her or to fight. Afraid of her, he said he loves to play, and apparently that's all she wanted, to play with him because he's the only one on the school who came from the mortal's world. Before getting started, she asked different questions about the mortal world, and if he didn't satisfy her they will start fighting. In the middle of the questions, the girl asked things about the protagonist's friend and asked if she was his girlfriend. When he answers that, she uses a power to see whether he's telling the truth or not, and after seeing he's not lying, she asks what is he looking for on the school, and his answer surprises her. After accepting him as an useful human, she decides to play with him for 3 days. But if he does that, he won't be able to be on the 50 top and he'll end up being a woman. The protagonist asks to the system a tip to avoid this transformation, and it says he can defeat a certain number of people stronger than him or to get a new skill that can only be obtained on the highest part of the battlefield. Since Liu has a flying broom, he asks her to play on the sky. On the other hand, the dog from before tells to Zhanshen that Lin was with diarrhea the whole time, so that's why he's been away from her. Anyway, once Lin gets to the flying stone, he starts absorbing its energy, and to be able to get the new skill, he'll have to be absorbing it for a day. There he gets to see a guy, but he disappears and Liu didn't seem to notice his presence. After this, Lin and Liu start playing for real, and addicted to gameplays, Liu loses every time. And to avoid losing, she programs her own game and wins. Excited with that, they both agreed to have a gameplay company in the future. When the sun rises, the girl starts telling some sad stories about her life, and Lin tells her to change all of that with her power. Sadly, because of the absorption of the energy, the girl judged Lin was a liar and decided to attack him. But just when she was about to do it, he got the skill he had been absorbing. The system ordered him to activate the skill, and he opens his mouth trying to show he had been honest the entire time. And when the girl interrupts his attack, the system forces him to attack her. When he punches her, she puts a knife on his neck, and when they're talking she sees his energy changed and that he's telling the truth. So he explained everything, and she said it's impossible to practice while having fun. He explained he had a system that helped him cheat on the cultivation, and instead of being happy for knowing he wasn't lying to her, she gets sad because she remembered the offenses he did to her. He thought the offenses were a lie, but now she knows he meant them. Lastly, she asks him to say a lie to verify, and he says he didn't cultivate using the system or eat a stone to become stronger, and that it gives a strong diarrhea. So she says she'll eat it, and if she gets it, he was telling the truth, otherwise, he was a liar. Right after eating it, the diarrhea got her, but luckily, the protagonist got a new skill that could help her, and after using it she feels better. Thankful, she gives him an accessory he can put on his head to be protected for a strong blow. When he gets down of the mountain, the system informs him the chances of having a romance with that girl are high. On his way down, he faces the strongest student of the academy, who wanted to fight with the number 1 student. And if he didn't show up, he'll defeat more of 20,000 students at once until he found him. While he hears him, Lin feels a tracker vibrating on his butt, and when he checks it he sees his friend is on danger, so he goes help her. Zhanshen and the dog were being attacked for some students, and when she was about to be attacked, Lin arrives and saves her and the dog. Then, he uses his new power to cure them both. Before those students could attack them, the strongest student starts defeating all of the students at once, and our group didn't die there thanks to the accessory that Liu gave him. Quickly, Lin kills some students that appear alive there, and after defeating them, he leveled up. After this he asks for forgiveness to Zhanshen for everything he did to her. She accepts the apologize and they're friends again. On the meantime, because the strongest student wasn't finding who he wanted, he decides to cut down the whole forest that is a sacred place where all the students are fighting. Listening to this, teachers start getting worried, but still, they let them free. Out of nowhere, the prettiest girl of the school and our cute guy appear to fight against this enemy. The cute guy created a spiritual jail and asked all the students to give his energies to him. The student easily frees himself from that, and when the girl attacks him she gets quite hurt. When he goes at her he tries to ask her out a little shy, and she, after rejecting him, puts his head against his spear and dies on the game, being eliminated of it. After seeing this, the cute guy says she doesn't like man that uses clothes that show their chest. And this made him furious and ends up eliminating our cute guy too. When he was about to eliminate our protagonist, someone stops his thunder with only one finger. It was the same guy that appeared T and Lin before on the mountain. When this guy saw him, he told him he needed to learn how to use the heaven-tearing finger, and after that, he leaves. Then, the system says the chances of him becoming a woman are now 0.0001. What means he still can defeat the strongest student. If he manages to do it, he'll be on the rank 2 at school and his life will improve a lot. When Zhanshen asks him why he's doing that, he gives her a punch to eliminate her, and seeing he's now alone, the strongest student prepares to destroy Lin. The dog wanted to help him too, but the protagonist eliminated him too. When he was about to receive the attack, the protagonist tries to use his mountain destroyer fist, but he fails. After that, the system says he got a new skill, and he uses the attack finger that divides the sky. At that moment, all the monitors that were showing the battle at the school start failing, but all of the students can see the great power Lin used inside the academy. He won, and now everyone admired him. Seeing this power, the teachers understood nothing and decided to make Lin a divine messenger. It happened that, after using this great power and blow, Lin spent 10 days sleeping, and he didn't die only because of a spiritual poison very strong. He was very ashamed with this, and what made him more ashamed was that everyone started consider him the stronger student of the school. With his victory, the system gave him different powers and some items he doesn't know what they're for. After all of this, the third protagonists were nominated as divine messengers, and this means they'll have to help the human world to prosper. After being nominated leader of the messengers, the protagonist promised to bring objects from the human world for free to everyone. Then, Ollie appears in front of everyone and tells she and Lin are creating a group of sports on the spirituals world that has the purpose of relaxing from the cultivation. Hearing this, everyone gets happy and decide to participate. At the next day, the students appear on the door to buy things from the humans world. One of the boys there, that was attacking the protagonist before, is kind of friend with the strongest student. We see they have a conversation, and the strongest guy says that the fact Lin won means the superior will wants him to go to the mortals world to do something. And only by thinking Lin took his place as messenger on the mortals world, this guy starts crying. When he starts crying, Lin receives a new skill from the system for making the enemy cry. After this he starts having fun with Ollie, and the cute guy sees this and thinks how special he is for making a girl like that smile. Zhanshen, on the other hand, feels put aside. Meanwhile, the neurologist goes to talk with Lin to tell him something it'll happen with him on the future, but afraid he may hear some negative forecasts, he decides to run away. Zhanshen, seeing this, goes to the teacher and asks what's the forecast and that she'll tell him herself. We don't get to see the forecast right now, we go straight to when the protagonists are about to go to the mortals world. Zhanshen knew the forecast, but since it was about a lot of battle he'll suffer until his death, she decides to keep it as a secret. When they're about to pass through the portal between the two worlds, something took the protagonist and Zhanshen grabs him, so they end up going together within the cute guy that follows them. Through the portal, Lin is woken up by the system, and before they crush on the ground, he manages to use his power to avoid their death. The cute guy appears after them and applies his power to cure Lin, when out of nowhere a girl appears on a ship and asks everyone to go with her. Everyone goes, and inside the ship we see the cute guy is excited for being there, since he loves military stuff. When Lin asks why they're there, the unknown girl answers so arrogantly that Zhanshen pisses off. They're about to fight, but the hairy cute guy sues his divine aura to suppress their fight spirit, and this girl kind of has a crush on him. After this, they finally arrive to their destiny and the ship's doors are open. They're at the biggest spatial station of Earth, and its goal is to send humans to war points so they can fight. Everyone there is received by a famous woman on the mortals world, and when Lin sees her he's enchanted by her since he was a big fan of her when he lived there. After introducing everyone, the woman says they've been sent there because human doesn't want the spirituals world help anymore, and they want to send the messengers back to the spiritual world. And not only that, Humans are mad because the spiritual's world has been sending nothing but weak messengers. Suddenly, an alert starts to sound and the protagonists say they're going to help to defeat the enemies. But one of the humans there gets angry and yells them to go back to their world, and then he attacks them with fury. The cute guy, Xuanyuan, protects everyone, and seeing him, the human dares him to a battle that he accepts. The Earth system evaluates the enemy's abilities and concludes that the protagonist can defeat him with a surprise attack, since the human is underestimating their strength. Listening to this, Lin asks his friend to let him fight on his place, and when he was about to start fighting, the human's daughter gets angry and attacks him before the battle even started, but her blows weren't effective against him. On the middle of the fight he uses his heavenly gate, ignoring the girl, and attacking, by surprise, at his father. But the famous woman goes to defend him and decides to try Lin's power, and if he resisted one of her spiritual blows, all the humans will accept spiritual messengers as warriors. When she does that, the girl from before tries to attack the protagonist again and ends up being affected by the woman's blow too. But luckily for her, the protagonist's strength was enough to get over this kind of power using an ability that puts his will above others. He gets free of the power. The only collateral symptom of this power is he loses his strength if he uses it a lot of times against the same target. With this, the divine messengers are accepted as warriors, and not only that, the humans send his daughter and Lin to a mission together. Because he made his enemies love him, he won the skill of living behind any object, including people's clothes. After teleporting to do their mission, the girl says they only have to assess the characteristics and strength of the enemy, and after that they'll request reinforcement and fight. On the station, Xiaolin was worried about Lin, so she and Xuanyuan asked to go to the battle with them. Meanwhile, the protagonist was advancing on his own in the middle poisonous fog, but everything was okay because his Earth's power could nullify curses and diarrheas. After advancing, he goes back and takes the girl away of the smoke to hide, and they saw 4 strong enemies that seemed to be waiting for them. Out of nowhere, they start screaming and crying, and the protagonist explains he used an illusory power to depress them and give them diarrhea. At the next episode, we're showed Lin face the demoniac enemies, and he used his power again to affect them mentally. On the other side, Xiaolin was insisting to be sent as a reinforcement. But since the humans considered Lin strong enough, they choose to send their own warriors of confidence instead of more messengers. She keeps insisting, so the humans attack her, and, seeing how worried she is, Xuanyuan decides to go without permission behind Lin so they can help his friend. After putting one foot inside it, the human's alert starts to sound, announcing that there's happening an invasion of dark beings that are going to the mortals' world. So the humans that were supposed to go help Lin end up going to help in other battlefields. However, when one of them is about to pass the portal, he's killed by something, and this something passes the barrier and breaks into their base. We see the something was actually a demon, a demoniac cute girl that defeat all the humans there, and then she left to look for a certain target we don't know yet. Back to Lin, we see his 2 friends find him to help him on the battle, and while they're preparing to fight, the human's daughter receives a message saying she lost contact with the base. So everyone decides to defeat this enemy and go back as soon as possible to solve the other problems. Suddenly, Lin feels there's something coming, and when he looks to verify the enemies, he ends up being attacked by surprise. The enemies take him high on the air and attack him until he passes out. Xuanyuan runs to help his friend, but a demon gets on his way, but he's very strong, so he manages to keep going without trouble, and like that he gets to run, trying to save the protagonist that was falling down. Xiaolin is also running to save him, but the enemy attacks her and she ends on the floor. The protagonist is now on the floor, and when the human's daughter sees him, she tries to attack the enemy, but she's easily defeated. When this enemy starts laughing, the only one standing appears and leaves him on the floor. The cute hairy guy alone managed to confront 3 enemies at the same time. Xiaolin, on the other hand, has her own fight with a demon whose power is to scream. This demon sees that Lin is still alive, so she takes him, and at that moment he whispers a supreme technique, what gives her the opportunity to defeat the enemies. When Lin gets up, a portal is open, and inside of it 2 hands come up that grabbed him and took him to a dark place. Inside this place, Lin passes out, but the system wakes him up, and after he does, the system alerts him of his danger and offers him a cheat to get over it. Hearing this, he gets excited and his finger starts rising up. There the system tells him to scream to turn into something that will keep him alive. Outside the portal, we see Xiaolin is very worried about Lin, and during this, she's almost killed by a demon, but the cute guy appeared just in time to save her. After being saved, she gets to see the portal closing more and more, and on an attempt to bring Lin back, she throws a fire swords to it. The demon girl that took Lin before saw this, and the next thing we see is that Lin's transformation bright even more than the sun, and he didn't only transform, but he brought his powerful friend, Liu. She defeat the enemies within seconds, and after this she put the protagonists inside the portal, so fast that not even the cute guy could see her movements. After everyone thanked her, Liu says their problems are still beginning, and after saying that, the demon girl appeared walking to their direction. When they see her, they ask her to leave them alone to avoid a war between these two worlds, but she ignores this warning and tries to kill Liu using her portal's power. At that moment, a red flower comes out of Lin's head and it uses a light's magic against the enemy, and here he understands the new technique he received. After almost dying, Liu gets angry and goes to attack the enemy, only getting to cut some wings off of her. And after seeing she could be defeated by these people, the demon starts consuming the energy of the cultivators she was using as a defense. Like this, she manages to invoke a trap that leaves everyone very scared. The power of her sword is so great that the system told our protagonist that the sword could break the universe's rules and kill him. It could even take his system from him. After hearing this, he starts being attacked, and when his friends see this, they try to help him, but this demon makes their power disappear. She could do this because she was using different divine weapons at the same time. But also for this, she starts losing her conscience, but before passing out she says she's been sent to kill all that didn't belong to that world. That in this case was the protagonist. On the other hand, we see the protagonist about to die, but then the system offered him an absolute power on exchange for a fifth of his life, and of course he accepts. But then a fairy appears and says he shouldn't have done that, and after accepting, Lin gets on an energy sea and talk with the spirit of the system. There he sees the sword is cutting his connection with the system, and because of that both the protagonist and the system's spirit will feel a lot of pain. Meanwhile, outside of it, everyone is wondering what God and Lin offended for being the target of this. Everyone started passing out because the enemy invoked a calamity to kill them all. The protagonist then goes back to his body, and then he meets the real form of the system. Her name is Tina, and because of a calamity that will happen on the future, she lost everything. At the time, she tried to use her power to try to change her destiny, and like this she became the spirit of a system to train, and thanks to this, the protagonist can evolve and defeat a lot of enemies more powerful than him. After telling this, Lin's memories start changing, and he realizes she's been always by his side. At the end, Tina offers him the rest of her power so he can defeat the calamity that's outside. He refuses, saying he doesn't want to separate from him, and after hugging her, he uses the finger that divides the heaven, and doing this, he wakes up. At the outside he sees everyone's on the floor, and when Tina appeared in front of him he asks if the calamity disappeared because of his blow, and she says it did. However, as long as she existed, other calamities will keep appearing. And after a little talk, they decide to go together to destroy these calamities. They get inside again and she invokes a transformation again, and doing it the protagonist he can be recognized by the divine weapons that the demon used to try to kill them. After Tina's explanation about how to use these weapons to get out of this situation, he starts breaking all of the formation to invoke calamities that the enemy had made. After this he held the divine sword, and under Tina's commands he prepared to kill the calamities that were still there. At that moment the demon woke up, and seeing all that was happening, she went back to sleep. Somehow, the calamity was eliminated and the sky turned blue again. Tina started disappearing and asked the protagonist to go to the spirit's kingdom to find her, and after she disappears, Lin stays there with tears on his eyes. To finish this, it showed that the humans' cultivators were safe because the protagonists could take a walk on the humans' world. And now Lin have 3 divine weapons to learn how to control by his own, because without Tina it'll be hard. Because of everything he did, Lin was received very good for everyone. But he wasn't happy with that. From that moment he will have to get stronger to fight against enemies without Tina. We now see the life of a girl with white hair that's been cultivating for years through her art, and after 1000s of years, she got the power to become a god. But she preferred to keep cultivating for 1 more year, and become a god when the start between beings started. Some time later, we see a demon on a fight with 5 gods more powerful than him. The demon had a big army, and he even had an ally with other races. When they were about to fight, the girl appears and threats them about becoming a new god, and then she starts her transformation. But somehow, heaven refused to accept her, and after all this presentation, the demon called the god to a war on a certain place, and he accepted. The demon's plan that was following a dark creature worked out, and the plan was to take this god out of her territory to get a divine object that was there on a stone island. Also, the dark creature asked the demon to use this army to kill all the students of the Magic's Academy. After seeing this, we see Lin sleeping peacefully while his alarm clock tries to wake him up. Out of nowhere, the dog opens his mouth above him and says he can feel the girl's flavor. Hearing different weird things, he grabs his phone and records everything. And to avoid trouble, the dog makes some weird question while he records him telling him some suspicious things. The only way to solve this will be to fight. Suddenly, is announced on the school everyone will be taken to a walk where they could take some things to protect themselves or to have fun. At this moment, he thinks about taking his divine weapons, but because those didn't obey him yet, he wasn't sure about it. And when he looks around, he finds a woman's clothes on his room. And to not keep this, he decides to take it as a gift for Liu to thank her for everything she's done. During a conversation, she asks him to keep the clothes, and while they're playing, she wins for the first time, and when he tried to leave, she took his hand and put her magic on his ring. So if something happened again, he could use his ring to invocate her. Because Liu rejected the present, he tried to give it to Zhanshen, but she rejected as well. At the end, he tried to give it to his cute guy, and to Lin's surprise, he said he should wear what he wanted. He goes back to his room and wonders how the clothes will look on him, and when the dog sees him, he tries to say it was a misunderstanding. But a flower comes out of his head and reproduces a scene of him dancing. He's going to give the clothes to some girl no matter what now. He goes to Zhanshen and tries to give it to her, but then Sue appears and tells him to be honest with her since they're good friends. Instead of being honest, he lied and said that was a present for her, and for that, she could reject it. When the protagonist insisted a lot and she asked if the cloth was accursed, and when he denied it, the flower came out and showed her what he was doing with the cloth in front of the mirror. She ends up accepting the dress, and when she wears it, she gets a little dark, and then a dark energy passes through her body, what makes her level up. When he finds how special the dress is, he asks her to give it to him a little. When she hears this, she gets mad but is interrupted by a message from the school saying the school's trip will begin soon. Zhanshen uses her wings to fly with Lin there. On the other hand, we see the teacher is flying, and the real goal of the trip is to show the result of the gods' war. And Lin and Zhanshen appear to get on the big sword, and everyone gets excited when they see the protagonist's presence. But Zhanshen started losing control of her new wings, and also, the teacher remembered a conversation with the neurologist where he said that the trip will be dangerous because of Lin. Remembering this, she tries to leave without, and when Zhanshen saw this, she thought about taking advantage of the situation to spend some time alone with Lin. But when she stopped moving, the most powerful student of the school appeared, who was also late. Because Lin defeated a calamity, he felt he owed him, so he took them to the sword. But even with this impulse, they couldn't get there. However, when the teacher saw everyone was excited for their arrival, she decided to give them 10 seconds to help them get to the sword, because after that, she'll speed up. When the cute guy heard this, he and other used their power to help them, and like this, they made a portal so they could get in. At the demoniac side of the war, we see they're preparing 100,000 insects to attack our protagonists. Back to the sword, we see the teacher is explaining different things about the big island where the war will happen, and at the same time that happened, the demon that was heading the war could finally get the power he needed. And while he was freeing this dark power, the girl with white hair that was with a girl that seemed to be human were trying to level up their power. At the middle of that, we see the woman with white hair is the daughter of a human that was from a futurist nation that earned a lot of power and knowledge. Because of this, they were completely destroyed except for the mother of this girl that ended up on this stone's island. On her way, a woman gave her brush with a purple star that was actually one of the divine weapons that all races wanted to get on the stone's island. The woman then said she and her partner needed to find these divine weapons before the demon got to the island and took everything. On the other side, the demon was getting staff power, and on the meantime, the teacher was choosing some leaders to command a group of people. The first chosen was the cute guy, and then Sui, Zhanshen, and then Eid. And then she said Lin will have a group all by himself, since he was very strong. Then she ordered it to choose a team, and since Lin will work alone, she sent him to go to the island to start working. While getting down there, he opens the system and looks for a mission, where he finds the mission of jumping off a cliff to get the wind power. He looked around and saw the perfect place to go, but when he looked there again, he saw a dark energy manifesting. On the other side, the women that looked the same with different color on their hair were trying to get power to get to Haven, but the one with white hair kept being rejected. The one with brown hair instead managed to go. On the sword, everyone was making teams when suddenly they saw the dark energy manifesting and going to them. The most powerful students realized that the island had been sealed with them inside it. Then, the divine bat appears and starts using his power, and he was so strong the teacher was forced to use a barrier on the sword to protect everyone. Meanwhile, Lin was alone in the middle of nowhere and hearing a demon flying, and using his power the protagonist activated his spiritual vision to see the demon's power. Seeing the guy was very powerful. After almost being killed and saved by the divine weapon that accepted him, he keeps going to the top of the cliff. On the other side we see the power of the demon was so big the teacher asked for help to all the students to create a barrier that could protect everyone. And the demon sends the giant beasts to go to the human cultivators, and when he does that, Lin was the first one on being attacked. Also, the students became a target too, and when the teacher sees everyone's thinking they won't hold on the attack, the teacher remembers his friend's words. He said she needed to keep the students motivated, so everything worked out. So she risked her own life to defend everyone. And when she does that, the cute guy tells to everyone to help the teacher while he invocates the objects he bought on the human's world. Then the demon went to attack the two girls and ordered her to give him the divine objects they had. On the other hand, Lin was activating all his powers trying to survive against different insects.